Welcome back in to the early line. It's another day here on Sports Grid. It's Tuesday morning. I'm Kevin Walsh, joined by Donnie right side. Jam-packed 2 hours coming your way. DRS, how you feeling?
Feeling good today. My picks didn't feel so good last night, as I don't think a single run was scored in Major League Baseball last night, but I'm here. I'm ready to go. New week, new money. Let's start it on Tuesday instead of Monday. Let's have some fun.
No doubt about it. We'll turn this thing around. We'll start it off, though, the 7-7 headlines in the NFL. Tom Brady is back. Back with the Bucs. Back in practice. Can we stop the panic, worry? The sky is falling in Tampa Bay. It seems like everything is fine.
But was he really back in practice? I'm not so sure these angles weren't cut from maybe 3 weeks ago, because I didn't see Brady in any pads yesterday, K-Dub, as he was throwing the football around. And it seemed to be nice around the campus where they said, hey, you know what? Yeah, Brady's back. It was kind of interesting that he was gone. I'm not buying it, K-Dub. I'm still not buying it. I'm not.
Legitimate grounds to kick you off of the show. There is video there that Tom Brady is back at practice. You've officially lost your mind. I really shouldn't have even bothered putting this into the show if you are going to deny the video of Tom Brady throwing the football at Bucs practice. He did, though, essentially we got the reporting that you were looking for, that he was on vacation in the Bahamas with his family. He then later on in the night joked about being on the Max Singer on Twitter. So, again, everything with Tom seems to be tremendously normal.
Yeah, and hopefully that kicks off a 2022 season, Kevin. But will you be surprised late October, somewhere around, let's just say, Halloween, Brady has to miss a game for a Halloween party that he already committed to, Kevin, in the offseason when he was retired?
Yeah, I'd be unbelievably surprised if that happens. And so would you, by the way. But nevertheless, we move on. This entire story has about, on this show particularly, 2 more minutes of airtime, and then we'll never have to worry about this nonsense again. Something more interesting, though, is the Baltimore Ravens apparently offered Lamar Jackson a contract that involved more money than Kyler Murray's deal. And Lamar's holding out for more. Maybe not exactly more money overall, just wants more guaranteed. Wants it fully guaranteed. You can thank your rival, the Cleveland Browns, for that. Interesting standoff here between Baltimore and Lamar.
Yeah, the question that we're going to talk about in the upcoming segment is, when is this going to get done? Because I don't think if it's a matter of how much money it's going to take. It's just when, why, and how. Because we know the first game is coming up, and there's that mythical, Kevin, where once the season starts, you're not allowed to talk to anybody in renegotiating or negotiating a contract, apparently, in the NFL. I do think we're coming to a head. It looks like we're right down to the wire where things are going to start to get hammered out. Just didn't know why it took so long. Why is it taking this long?
I think this is one of those spots where maybe Lamar feels confident in where he is. He was able to get that offer above Kyler's, which is reasonable. He has been better than Kyler Murray in this point in his career. This guy's been an MVP under the mantle already. Is he just trying to run it up a little bit here? Possibly so. But also, we've wondered if the Deshaun Watson contract could impact future deals. Might be taking place here in their own division with Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. We did see finally the actual naming of a starting quarterback in Carolina in Baker Mayfield. Our radio audience is here this Tuesday morning. Kevin Walsh, Donnie right side of the early line on Sirius XM Channel 159. Glad this is over. Baker, officially your Week 1 starter against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, we all knew this was going to take place once that trade was made from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers. We also saw the tea leaves last week that said Baker Mayfield was the starter. And boy, did it get a lot of run yesterday when it was official where the Carolina Panthers named the starter. Everybody ran with it, and everybody said, yeah, that's what we expected here. Baker Mayfield Week 1 against the Browns. Sign me up. We'll be watching.
How about the fact, though, that this is now 1.5-point line? So maybe people a little more confident just making sure that Sam Darnold was not going to be under center for this game. How about also some Monday Night Football preseason action? The Jets and the Falcons, 24-16. The Jets complete a ridiculous preseason comeback. They were down 16-0 in this game and come all the way back and win this thing 24-16.
Yeah, it was announced that, starters weren't really going to play all that much there for, I guess, the New York Jets. So you said, all right, let's chime in here and get a win. What an easy walk-away victory for the Falcons, but it's preseason, and you play 2 halves, and that's what you get. We were on Moneyline yesterday, Kevin. That line was around 3, spiked up to 5. Who cares? Jets out right here. Big dub.
How about that? Some low-scoring action in Major League Baseball yesterday. The big game on the slate, though, Yankees, Mets, and how about it? The Yanks were able to get to Scherzer in the first inning. Aaron Judge hit his 47th home run in this game, and the Yankees beat Max Scherzer 4-2.
Yeah, Yanks needed that one, and now you say, ooh, they had to steal at least one of these games because DeGrom will be on the mound. He's not tonight. Taijuan Walker will be on the mound. Much easier opponent for the Yanks. Win streak for the Yanks coming? Who'd have thought?
Certainly possible there. Interesting to see DeGrom not go out there and be available. We've also got some updates around Kevin Durant. The list seems to be growing, including perhaps a more aggressive pursuit coming from the Memphis Grizzlies, Donnie.
Yeah, hey, but how about this, Kevin? We don't know if we want to include Desmond Bane here for KD. Yeah. I love these trade scenarios. They are mind-boggling.
The Grizzlies join every team in the league that is wondering if they can acquire Kevin Durant for just draft picks, essentially nothing. Also, Manchester United yesterday shocked Liverpool, jumped them in the table. Premier League continues to heat up. We come right back. We're talking NFL.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less.
Rodgers and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
sports
the
today.
Cleveland Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to coast.
That's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
kind
decisions.
of bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live all access.
I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy could win the game, take it 4.5.
In-game live, prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live, overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The morning after.
Are you concerned at all for what this means for Tom at the age of 45, entering his 23rd year?
Definitely not concerned. I think it's something to contemplate, but I think it's something where when you've been doing this so long, you're a veteran now of television. If Ben Stevens takes a week off, Ben Stevens is going to show up and do his job. Now, magnify that times 20 plus, right? And that's Tom Brady.
The Sports Grid Network. Pharrell coast to coast.
I mean, honestly, between Davis and Diggs, they are lethal. Between Josh Allen having that choice, and he goes to Davis a lot, and he's got to get Stephon his targets. But between the two of them, honestly, it's almost like good luck trying to stop that offense. They are very dangerous.
The Sports Grid Network.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports with your Sports News Minute. Remember we talked about how important it is for Major League Baseball to capture the fan experience and make sure they love the baseball game while at the park. Well, here's another example of loving a game when you're at the park. But how about golf? An 11,000 square foot simulation experience at American Family Field in Milwaukee by a golf company to get people interested in taking practice swings, to get a golf simulator used like every other golf simulator, pace, height, distance, all of those issues, but you can do it while the Brewers are playing. And you can even do it when the Brewers on the road. This will be open and available for other kinds of events as well. If this goes well, watch for all other baseball stadiums in the country to take notice in some context. Clearly, fan engagement a top priority.
strip it around here. There's a lot of quarterback stories to follow. We'll do this one last time. Tom Brady is back at practice. If you're being honest about this non-story is officially over. Tom Brady went away. Why? Because he can. He's Tom Brady. His wife, very publicly, has wanted him to retire. He did, and then he unretired. So in a meaningless week of practice, he went out and was able to spend some time with his family. Make sure that everything is good. It was reported to be a work-life balance. It was reported that the Bucs knew it was coming, and it was far from an unsurprising thing. Maybe Todd Bowles was a little bit bothered because his whole, we don't have an exact date yet, was unnecessary considering Tom was there on a Monday, which is exactly when you would have expected Tom Brady to come back based on all of the initial reporting. Tom Brady is back. The Bucs are fine in that regard. The offensive line's a little banged up. That's a little more interesting. But nevertheless, people like Donnie, I guess, still want to question this. I don't even know what you can say other than I blew it out of proportion.
I mean, it's tough seeing down there in Tampa Bay. Why? Because they lose in the playoffs and Tom Brady wants to retire. But let's get to the facts here. Tom Brady's been home since February, March, April, May, June, July, goes to training camp, which keep in mind, they don't go anywhere. It's not as if they go to an oil rig in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for 6 weeks and he doesn't get to see Giselle and his family. He goes home each and every night during training camp to his family, staying in his house. Not good enough. Away from his family too long, so he has to take a week-long vacation in the middle of training camp while everybody's out there with blood, sweat, and tears trying to make the football team or make this team capable of returning to a Super Bowl. So the same way I take this approach where I don't believe Tom Brady's back and what's going on, it's the same way he's taking this football season right now. Not too seriously. Because quite frankly, if you need to take a vacation while you already had a 6-month vacation to the Bahamas to get away from your teammates, maybe when the going gets tough there, September, October, and November, maybe they won't be there for Tom Brady. Maybe Tom Brady breaks down. Maybe in the middle of the season, we get one of those tweets that says, you know what? It's time to retire here. I'm headed to the booth this Sunday. Instead of playing, Kevin, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm going to call the game on Fox. Why? Because I made that commitment over the few weeks I was retired, and now I'm going to follow through.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. His teammates really should have nothing to complain about because the Bucs were going to be quarterbacked by Blaine Gabbert if he was not there. I don't know what we're talking about them losing in the postseason. He's been there for 2 years. They have a Super Bowl trophy already. I mean, I just don't know what we're doing here. And again, the real story is you have no idea how vacation works. I was thinking about I think you've missed 0 early lines since you jumped on this show. Yeah. It's a credit to you, hard worker. You have no idea how vacation works. And that is that. Tom Brady is back at practice. We thankfully move on. Lamar Jackson's a lot more interesting. Lamar offered up more money than Kyler Murray. Absolutely correct. He is worth more than Kyler Murray. He has impressed more than Kyler Murray. He has done more than Kyler Murray. So what's the beef? He wants more. Maybe not per year, maybe not overall, just more guaranteed, which is understandable. We often wonder how teams have been able to get away, maybe not every single player, but in the NFL, the ability to offer up fake money in contracts. There's $200 million. Only half of it's guaranteed, and we can cut you after 2 years, and really it makes no difference to our books. Think about Jimmy Garoppolo this year. One of the reasons we know he's not going to be in San Francisco is it's going to save him north of $20 million to not be in San Francisco. So I understand why Lamar is looking for that fully guaranteed contract, because you never know when or where the next one could come from. What do you make of the Baltimore and Lamar Jackson standoff right now?
Yeah, let's keep an eye on Lamar Jackson as well already. It's not as if he said, well, he's still on his rookie deal. He's going to make $23 million this year. So if he doesn't come to an agreement before the first game of the season, Kevin, and he holds through with, we're not going to negotiate the rest of the year, it's not as if he's going to make $100,000 a game for $1.7 million on the season. He's going to be paid and paid extremely well. Now, here's the issue that you're running up against, where you saw all that guaranteed money go to Deshaun Watson. Here's the difference. Deshaun Watson was almost a de facto free agent at that time. And you can also equate it to what happened out in Arizona with Kyler Murray, Kevin, because he was under control from the team. He got a monster deal, but it wasn't as if 30 teams could bid on you and you could go to the highest bidder. Now, really, that wasn't the factor with Deshaun Watson because he wasn't a true free agent where everybody was bidding, but he still had multiple teams in on it. Take a look at the Arizona Cardinals. How many people were bidding on Kyler Murray? Nobody, except the Cardinals. Take a look at the Ravens. How many people are bidding on Lamar Jackson? Nobody but the Ravens. But you had multiple teams bidding on trying to work out a deal for Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson was going to choose where, Kevin? Who was going to pay him the most money? Don't you remember when the Cleveland Browns were out of it and all of a sudden they lost their mind overnight, made a phone call to the agent and said, blank check, sign it, whatever you want, we will give you. Oh my goodness, man, Cleveland looks like the best opportunity for me to continue my pro career. Money drives everything here, but Lamar Jackson has to understand he's not a true free agent. Will he get a ton of money and get more than Kyler Murray? That's already on the table. But we understand how the negotiation goes. Hey, look, this guy in my same division is going to get this money fully guaranteed. I think I'm a better quarterback overall, and I'm here for my teammates with no suspensions. I want at least what he's getting here. And that's what's happening now inside that building for the Ravens, where they know they sort of have some control over Lamar Jackson. You want to keep him happy, but they just don't want to give away the farm.
The thing is, though, right? One, we know teams are, once that Watson contract came out, we know that teams were going to start to look at those contracts, or players were going to start to look at that contract and talk about what they want. But Donnie, I don't know if you realize the point you're making. Lamar, you can only get that money if you're a free agent. Donnie, he's a year away, technically. He'll be franchise tagged once, right? At least. Like, that's not a win for the Ravens. If you say we refuse to give that to you, you need more suitors. No, what do we think they're not? Is there's not going to be more Lamar Jackson suitors? If all of a sudden Baltimore says we're not going to give you a fully guaranteed deal, he says trade me. Okay, now he's in this same exact boat as Watson. As every single team that will call will know that they have to extend him at a fully guaranteed price. So that fully guaranteed deal under the guideline you're talking about is not far away for Lamar Jackson at all.
No, I understand the point that you're making here, but I can only look at the here and now of where the scenario is lining up because there has been no rumors that he wants to be traded. Quite frankly, we're a week out from the season. He's probably not going to press that button down. So maybe it comes to a head next year, but it's all a matter of what Lamar Jackson wants at this point. And the key point here is he's not playing on like an $800,000 contract or $1 million deal at this point. It's $23 million this year, and he's made quite a lot of money even off the football field as well. He's sitting in a power position for himself, but also, the Ravens are still in a position to say, we're the only game in town. This is where you're going to play. Here's the deal we have on the table. Now, are they going to make some tweaks here before week one? I do believe so. If I reverse this and say to you, Kevin, week one is coming up. They're going to have a game against the New York Jets. Is Lamar Jackson going to be signed long-term, or are they going to go into the season with uncertainties?
I do think he will be signed long-term because I think Lamar's already been able to get the offer he wants in terms of annual salary, and maybe he is willing to come back a little bit on the fully guaranteed aspect of it. But you can probably get your guarantees in a way, let's call it a 5-year deal. If 4 of them are fully guaranteed, I think you'll probably take that. So I would anticipate they can get a deal done. Look, let's work this last one in here, mainly because we've known it for a while. Baker officially named the starter in Carolina. They did get this right. Now, this wasn't really a battle. They didn't even drag it into the second game of the preseason. They dressed it up as one. Who cares? Baker starts first, the Cleveland Browns week 1.
And it's the right move to make here. And also, from an NFL perspective, the NFL is giving an attaboy down to the Matt Rule in that front office saying, this is exactly what we wanted here. We're not going to have to worry about Deshaun Watson starting in the first game, but we still have hype. Why? Because Baker Mayfield is going to play against his old team that threw him out of town for Deshaun Watson. It's a win all the way around, including for the Panthers. This was the right move.
Line continuing to move in Carolina's favor, now sitting at -1.5, the Panthers' direction on the FanDuel Sportsbook. We take a break. When we come back, a lot of baseball headlines, including New York Yankees beating the New York Mets. That's next.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour Champion, 2017 World Number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
The morning after.
Why are you buying in on Dylan's stock for 2022?
Aaron Jones has been remarkably consistent for the Packers, and I kind of see him playing almost Alvin Kamara role in the slot, sitting about wide. And I think they're going to try and save him from taking this, ground and pound, and they're going to leave that role to A.J. Dillon to have this kind of more of a balanced approach because they need a little more consistency in their passing game. I think it helps that the Packers' offensive line is right now ranked 5th.
The Sports Grid Network. The Early Line.
Football is always so much fun because you see new players literally every single year, and the anticipation is stupendous once it gets underway. And we're really close to that. A 12:30 game overseas this weekend between Northwestern and Nebraska. And yeah, you're going to settle into Connecticut playing Utah State with a 27.5-point line. Everybody gets in the way. Big Ten, Pac-12. We cannot wait for this.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy Sports Today.
The running back that appears to make the biggest jump maybe in the last 2 months, maybe in all of fantasy, honestly, Davis, is Damian Pierce, who played for the University of Florida. And the beef that went on at Florida, Davis, is that people wanted to see him get the ball more. He really was never a primary running back at Florida. He's sort of a throwback guy in the sense that you give him the ball, he's never going to lose yards.
The Sports Grid Network. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
This is yet, I'm told, at least the fourth different offense that Mayfield has to learn as a professional in his 5 years. And from the very start, Pharrell, they kind of knew it. I'm told after 2 weeks, he was so dominant over Darnold. It wasn't bad, but the fact of the matter is his timing was good. I'm told a couple of the throws are a little bit high. They feel that the timing will be better as these guys work together.
The Sports Grid Network.
Major League Baseball yesterday providing some good action, but I think the main game everybody can agree was in the Bronx. It was the Yanks versus the Mets, the Subway Series. It was a 4-2 win the Yankees' direction. They were able to get to Scherzer early, scoring one, Judge with a two-run, or rather a home run, a solo shot to make it 2-0, his 47th of the season. And all in all, this team was able to now put up a second consecutive win, which felt like the first time in a long time we've seen the Yankees go out there and win consecutive baseball games. What was your main takeaway from last night's action?
Very surprised because I guess, we've expected that once you see DeGrom and or Scherzer on the mound for the New York Mets, you could pretty much put that game away. And the Mets rounding into form at the plate, catching the Yankees at exactly the right time. So now you look at the New York Yankees picking up that win yesterday, and they were outmanned. They were outmanned at the plate, and they were outmanned on the mound, and it still didn't matter. Quite frankly, outside of an error there, which led to a Vogelbach two-run home run, the Mets only end up with 4 total hits in that game. So a nice win for the Yankees overall. When you talk about, how the tables might have turned at this point now, you were looking at a series where if you're Mets fans, if you're Yankees fans, it's a big deal. Who's going to get the back page of, whatever newspaper, and what are the headlines going to be? Mets storm through Yankees struggling. You saw, Cashman during the Paul O'Neill ceremony get booed, and also have Hal Steinbrenner walk out and get booed as well. There are a lot of bad feelings in the Bronx, despite a team that's pretty much a lock to win their division and head into the playoffs. But that shows the pressure of what the Yankees told us they could be in April, May, June, and July, and now have stumbled here in the month of August. But having said that, Kevin, we're only a couple hours away from the Yankees being favored tonight because Jacob deGrom is not going to take the mound. Imagine this, lining up this series with Scherzer and deGrom saying, boy, the Yankees are just going to get pounded, and oh my goodness, is the sky falling, to saying you might have a mini sweep of the Subway Series here and get those good vibes back in the locker room up in the Bronx.
I mean, that to me was still pretty surprising, right? They said that they're trying to be careful with Jacob deGrom. They don't want to push it. I don't know what that really means. I guess, I mean, he went the deepest he has in terms of pitches thrown, his last outing versus the Atlanta Braves. The why or the when of that timing of that decision is a little bit surprising, right? Some people, I don't think Jacob deGrom is ducking the Yankees at all. I don't know why Buck Showalter wouldn't want to throw deGrom out there. It is a surprising move. But one thing that did catch my eye from this game is that the best player 2 games in a row for the New York Yankees has been Andrew Benintendi. And Andrew Benintendi in the leadoff spot is now gone back-to-back multi-hit games, back-to-back multi-RBI games. Before that, Donnie, as a Yank, was batting under 200, which sounds almost impossible considering they traded for Andrew Benintendi, who was batting .320 for the Kansas City Royals. But in those initial 22 games, he was a sub-200 hitter. That right there was able to speak to just how bad things were going for the Yanks. You're trying to bring in reinforcements, and you're like, well, hold on a minute now. Is this, who did we trade for here? But he's starting to figure it out now. And providing some protection for Aaron Judge at the top of that lineup is massive. Able to break what was a 10-game homerless streak, 47. His pace now is back to 61 homers for the season. We will see if he is ultimately going to be able to catch that Roger Maris record and go out there and get above that 61 total. So that's one aspect of kind of Yankees-Mets. Another aspect of this game, though it didn't involve this game specifically, is Cardinals-Cubs. Because, again, the Yankees made a couple of moves at the deadline, and they brought in a Benintendi, they bought in a Frankie Montas, they sent out a Jordan Montgomery, who evidently is the best pitcher in baseball. I know it's the Cubs. I don't care. A complete game one-hitter. No walks, 7 strikeouts. He has been marvelous for the St. Louis Cardinals. True, not he's been just what they need. No. Over the 4 games that he has been a Cardinal, he has probably been the best pitcher in baseball.
And how about this, too? On the road in Chicago at Wrigley against one of your hated rivals here. Now, we know the Chicago Cubs aren't having a great season by any stretch of 52-69, but isn't these are the type of wins that you need? Because what were we banking on over the past month here? Whoever the Cardinals faced as a pitcher, they were raking at the plate, and it didn't matter. So one night where your offense is off, you get a start out of Montgomery where he goes the entire way. This is a guy that struggled to pitch into like the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings here with the New York Yankees. Now all of a sudden goes into Cy Young mode. And also, we are late in the month of August. These are all high-pressure situation pitching spots for these Cardinal pitchers because they want to extend that lead over the Milwaukee Brewers. But if you're going to get this type of performance, we're now talking about, hey, Game 1 or Game 2 starter throughout the NLCS and maybe the World Series or the wild card, wherever the St. Louis Cardinals wind up in. That was a great win because you want to win different ways where it's not always, well, hey, the Cardinal bat showed up, Kevin. It was 7-4 where Montgomery just had to navigate his way around. They didn't have their bats last night. He continued to pitch in high-leverage moments and was fantastic. You're right. Didn't even give up a walk, only 1 base hit against the Cubs. This is exactly what the Cardinals need. It just shows you how tough they are going to be a team to try to come back on if you're the Milwaukee Brewers.
That hit coming from the 9-hole as well. Montgomery pitching to a .35 ERA in his 4 starts for the St. Louis Cardinals, and now 7+ Ks in 3 consecutive of those outings. It's really, really impressive stuff. That's his second 1-0 win, by the way, as a starter for the Cardinals in 4 games. Speaking of 1-0, though, DRS, not every game on this slate was 1-0, but it might as well have been. 9-game board, 8 unders. Anomaly?
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Worry signs?
Yeah.
What is this?
I don't think it's a worry sign. It was one of those where, and again, being superstitious when you are a gambler. There was a lot of rain in the forecast yesterday, a lot of delays. So automatically, if anybody's ever bet a baseball game in their career, it doesn't matter if you had an over, an under, or a side, or whatever prop bet you had. If the game is delayed, you automatically lost that bet. That's just the way it goes here. But how about this? We were live on Moneyline yesterday with a huge first inning for the Kansas City Royals where they played at 4 runs. So all the totals, like, hey, man, it's going to be interesting. Maybe the Royals can get to their 7 as a team total. They didn't. They got to 6. And quite frankly, this game was tied up 4-4 late before the Royals actually tacked on 2 runs to win that. I thought that game probably would get over 11 runs. It didn't. We said, okay, that's 10 runs in the first game, no problem. Not a single game after that actually went over, Kevin. And you're trying to find some spots where it's like close. 4-2 in the Mets-Yankees game. Outside of that, nobody even sniffed the total to go over. So the conspiracy theorist in myself starts to come out and say, did we get that September shipment of baseballs, Kevin, already sent? Was this box scheduled for October the 4th to be delivered for the playoffs and somehow got messed up and found its way into Major League Baseball in the last weeks here of August? I hope the offense returns back because it's much more fun to gamble and win and root for good things to happen as opposed to solid pitching performances.
I mean, 18 games in action yesterday, 12 of them scored 2 runs or less. I mean, that includes, by the way, 3 games where a team scored 2 runs and walked away with the victory. I mean, actually, there were 4 games where a team scored 2 or less and came with the win. The Royals were the only team that scored over 4 runs on yesterday's slate. One of the lowest, probably the lowest scoring slate we've seen all season long, which is really, really something. And that includes the Los Angeles Dodgers being shut out. Got to give the Milwaukee Brewers some credit here, Donnie, up against the LA Dodgers. They saw that team back in their building a series ago. There was one in between. A split against the Dodgers feels fantastic. Now to go to LA, grab one as well. Did this game speak to you more on the Dodger side or the Brewer side?
Maybe a little sleepy effort here from the Dodgers, but the Brewers absolutely needed that. You're talking about the division where the Cardinals had put a win on the board, and you're saying the Cardinals should have their way in their series, and you're looking to get hammered here if you're the Milwaukee Brewers against the Dodgers, but also from the Philadelphia Phillies perspective as well. With them picking up a win yesterday, you probably figured the Milwaukee Brewers would lose, which would add even more space between that wild card race. But if you get out the old crystal ball and we look at this game before it even starts, and I say, Kevin, you know what? You got unlimited bank funds here. I'm going to let you do one game, but I'm going to give you one statistic here. Julio Urias is going to go 6 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and a walk heading into the 7th inning. What are you going to bet? Well, Dodgers probably won 7-1 in this game. No question about it. The Dodgers don't score in this game at home, and Lauer was fantastic. That is a huge win for the Brewers because I talked about it before this series began with the Cardinals of who they're playing and the Dodgers of who they're playing going up against the Brewers, where you might already be wiped out in 3 or 4 days where it's too far to come back. That's a huge win for the Brewers just to try to keep pace with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely needed it. Pretty interesting as well tonight, and we'll break this game down in hour number 2, but Gonsolin has the ball against Corbin Burns in L.A. It is under -150, narrowly. But again, Corbin Burns, I know he's earned a lot of respect there. What does that DeGrom-Gonsolin number look like in L.A.? If Burns is able to get this, down to a -148 on the Dodgers, -120? Donnie, if it was DeGrom versus Gonsolin, is that the number? I'm just trying to project it out.
I don't know. Like I'm telling you, if DeGrom is in form and the Mets are healthy, this is a blind bet on DeGrom, like taking the short plus money. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's a very good like theater to try to put through your head. It's like a pretzel that you're like, oh my goodness, this team at home, this team DeGrom. How's DeGrom going to be a dog? It's a great thought process to go through.
It's just an interesting thing. The 2 best teams in the National League just trying to line up what that potential matchup could look like in an NLCS, because the Dodgers almost assuredly will have home field advantage in that series. So just how the pricing of that is going to be structured will be fascinating to see. We're going to the Big Ten next.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio.
Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on Sirius XM Sports Grid Channel 159.
Maurice Allen, 2015-2016 European Long Drive Tour champion, 2017 world number 1. Me personally, I keep my game face on me all the time. Especially coming out of the bunker, leaving the range, or even leaving the course. What's your story?
The morning after.
Why are you buying in on Dylan's stock for 2022?
Aaron Jones has been remarkably consistent for the Packers, and I kind of see him playing almost Alvin Kamara role in the slot, sitting about wide. And I think they're going to try and save him from taking this, ground and pound, and they're going to leave that role to A.J. Dillon to have this kind of more of a balanced approach because they need a little more consistency in their passing game. I think it helps that the Packers' offensive line is right now ranked 5th.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Football is always so much fun because you see new players literally every single year, and the anticipation is stupendous once it gets underway. And we're really close to that. A 12:30 game overseas this weekend between Northwestern and Nebraska. And yeah, you're going to settle into Connecticut playing Utah State with a 27.5-point line. Everybody gets in the way. Big Ten, Pac-12. We cannot wait for this.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy Sports Today.
The running back that appears to make the biggest jump maybe in the last 2 months, maybe in all of fantasy, honestly, Davis, is Damian Pierce, who played for the University of Florida. And the beef that went on at Florida, Davis, is that people wanted to see him get the ball more. He really was never a primary running back at Florida. He's sort of a throwback guy in the sense that you give him the ball, he's never going to lose yards.
The Sports Grid Network. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
This is yet, I'm told, at least the fourth different offense that Mayfield has to learn as a professional in his 5 years. And from the very start, Pharrell, they kind of knew it. I'm told after 2 weeks, he was so dominant over Darnold. It wasn't bad, but the fact of the matter is his timing was good. I'm told a couple of the throws are a little bit high. They feel that the time will be better as these guys work together.
The Sports Grid Network.
Big Ten preview. A little bit here in hour number 1, a little bit in hour number 2. We're talking about the Big Ten East. This is Ohio State's division. This is Ohio State's conference overall. 3-1 win the national championship. Second best odds, a minus 200 favorite. To win this conference, an 11-win total, minus 130. So this team's going to have to run the table if you want to cash a ticket. Ohio State DRS with C.J. Stroud back. Last year, in that Heisman mix, the favorite for the Heisman Trophy this year. When you see the 11, what do you think about the Ohio State win total?
When I see the 11, it means you're going to have a really good football team. Why is that, Kevin? There's only 12 games in the regular season. But having said that, as a gambler, there is a very thin line on actually cashing in this ticket because anything could go wrong. A game you don't play well. You're playing some good opponents. You're playing in the Big Ten. You got an out-of-conference game against Notre Dame, which you're heavily favored by, but it's opening day, so maybe there are some jitters there. So from a betting perspective, should they win 11 games, they probably will. But, Kevin, you need 12 wins to cash this ticket. That means a perfect season. Can they do that? Yes. Will they? Probably. Maybe, but I don't want to put my money behind it here. Now, here's the interesting part coming into the season. You have a lot of hype on Ohio State. It doesn't even matter. You don't look, so many times, Kevin, we're going to go over and say, oh, look at this. 6 returning starters on offense, 5 on defense. There's a lot of holes. Stop the madness here. Ohio State doesn't retool. They reload every single year with a 5-star kid to replace a 5-star kid. But here's the interesting part. We expect the quarterback to dominate. We expect video game numbers throughout this entire season and being up for the Heisman and making that trip to New York City at the Downtown Athletic Club. But having said said that, you take a look at the wide receiver position here, right? When you say, Smith and Jigba, what's the last time we saw him and what he did? He was off the Richter scales, absolutely outrageous. So we anticipate that happening again this year. Could it? Maybe. Last year finishes up with what? 1,600 yards as a college wide receiver. But the reason I bring this up is, remember when we see Jadeveon Clowney make that ridiculous play for South Carolina against the Michigan Wolverines? Helmet pops off, he gets the fumble. That was in a bowl game. He had to return to his next season. Same thing with the wide receiver from Ohio State. But having said that, we expected him to do ridiculously crazy things right out of the gate. And if you remember, South Carolina opened up the season like one of the first games of the year where they had cameras that just focused on Clowney. And what did we say, Kevin? Oh, my goodness. Why doesn't Clowney have 7 sacks in the first quarter? I thought he was supposed to be this amazing guy. Settle down. Ohio State is extremely talented. One of the best quarterbacks in the country. An outrageous running back. A dominant passing game here. They're going to win a lot of football games, and it's hard to say, hey, your toughest games are Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Michigan. You're going to be heavily favored, Kevin, in probably all of those games. The cream of the crop in the Big Ten, they'll win it all. I just don't know. I can't take an 11 as a win total here. I just can't do it.
I genuinely believe if you like them over the 11 at minus 130, you pay the extra 70 cents and bet them to win the Big Ten at minus 200. Because you can cash that if they drop a game somewhere. Yeah. Unless that is to Michigan in the last game and Michigan is also unbeaten, you should know, you now have more leeway, right? That's why that's minus 200. And by the way, Ohio State is this good this year, and the expectations are so much higher than everybody in the conference. I know people don't like to lay minus 200 in the futures market, and understandably so, but their money line is not going to be minus 200 versus any team they play all year long. Not in a single one of these games until we talk about college football playoff matchups. So from that respect, there's not going to be, just bet at Michigan State. No. They're going to be laying 14 to Michigan State, at Michigan State. Yes, they are. Michigan State won 11 games last year. We'll get to the Spartans. So for Ohio State, Donnie, if there's a trip-up spot, right, the 3 in a row at Michigan State, home versus Iowa, and at Penn State, maybe, right? Could Michigan be phenomenal this year? Listen, it took them 10 years to beat Ohio State. I don't think that's going to become routine and is also going to happen this year in Columbus. But for me, genuinely, I disregard that win total. If you like them over the 11, which, by the way, I'm assuming that means you think they are going to run the table and be unbeaten. They're going to the Big Ten championship then, and you're going to have their money line at minus 200. Whoever they play from the Big Ten West, we know this story, Donnie, almost year in, year out. They're going to be what? I mean, a 17-point favorite, right? Against Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa, whomever you think it might be.
Yeah, when they show up in Indy, right, and just have one of those games where it's just a measuring stick, too, because I love the fact that you bring that up, because how many times have we seen, like, Ohio State, if they do have one loss and get in, do they need help? Oh, that's okay. Pencil them in for a 55-3 win here in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. That's the type of power that they can have, and they will be heavily favored in that game. Either way, if they have one loss or no losses at that point.
Now, to be fair, they are not the defending champs here in the Big Ten. That is Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines. Win total, 9.5. They are the second choice to win the conference at plus 800. Certainly the second best odds to win this East Division. Michigan is very enticing. I think the schedule does shine on them favorably. But similar to Ohio State, you do not have that margin of error. Assume they're going to lose to Ohio State because, again, no matter how much you like this team, at Ohio State, they are a 2-touchdown dog probably, right? They are home versus Michigan State. They are home versus Penn State, and they do not have to play Wisconsin. So this team winning every single game outside of Ohio State, Donnie, is very reasonable. But that is what needs to happen, right? If we're talking about this team going out there and getting over a win total, you have one more game of breathing room. It's an interesting spot with the Wolverines.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? You're right about that. 9.5 at a -125. I said to myself, well, that's pretty lofty standards where Michigan's going to have another 10-win season. Could they do it? Absolutely. And it's one of those teams, Kevin, where even before you look at the schedule and start to break them down, I sort of wanted to knock them a little bit. You know what you get each and every time, Kevin, you open up and you take a look and say, let me see what Ohio State is about this year. Oh, look, they're great at every position and they're expected to win once again. But you're right. When you look at that Michigan game, the tough games, Michigan State this season, which, okay, it's always going to be a rivalry. And then you have that last game of the season against Ohio State, which you figure will be for all the marbles. But what they do well, 8 returning starters on offense here, only 3 on defense. But again, it's a big school here. You reload. You'd rather have this, for me, I'd rather have the starters returning on offense than defense, sort of that plug-and-play type mentality. You're going to get your quarterback returning this year, and also some good things about them. Top 4 or 5 running backs are back this year. You know what's going to happen with Jim Harbaugh. He loves to play with a fullback and an unbalanced line and pound the football when it gets cooler in the Big Ten in late October and early November. That's going to be a big factor. And also top 4 or 5 wide receivers back, and also your top tight end back. The more you look at the Michigan Wolverines, the more it makes some sense. I'm not going to be surprised, Kevin, when we wind up in the big game here in late November, where you say this one is 2 teams that are possibly undefeated or at the least 1 loss apiece here, which means the Michigan Wolverines probably going to already have that ticket cashed in for an over. I actually like double-digit wins here for the Michigan Wolverines.
It actually was nearly going to be my favorite win total for the Big Ten over the number, because as we were just trying to set up there, right, forget the Ohio State game. If they win that, they're going to the college football playoff, and you'll have cashed the ticket already. So, again, remove that. Go through and look at Harbaugh as the coach for this team. Outside of Michigan State being able to catch him once, right? They had the nightmare 2020 season. It was the pandemic. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Yeah.
He's not lost at the big house. So I know it's a little lofty maybe to say nobody's beating him at home, but that is typically how this has been. Their only road games, again, we're removing Ohio State, are Iowa. Okay, that's legit. Indiana and Rutgers. You're laying 2 touchdowns to both Indiana and Rutgers there. I think the schedule shines on Michigan. Oh, and by the way, they're really talented on the offensive side of the ball. I know Josh Gaddis left. Yes, you would have rather perhaps some more coordinator continuity considering how good last year was, but I still think they have plenty of pieces here, right? The offensive line last year won the Joe Moore Award, which is for the best offensive line in the country. They returned nearly the entire offensive line. They are loaded in the running back room with Blake Corum coming back and others, young studs that can step up throughout the year. And I know that Cade McNamara or McCarthy are not necessarily your favorite, this guy might win the Heisman. I don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. But it doesn't really matter. And it sneaky gives you depth in case one of the guys goes down. Yes, they're going to have to replenish on the defensive side of the football, but this really is going to be, I think, one of still the best offenses in college football. I think the schedule shines on them, and I think the 9.5 makes a lot of sense. Michigan State last year was that 3rd team firmly in the mix. They beat Michigan, and then Ohio State ripped them to shreds, 56-7. But they still were a 10-2 team in the regular season, went out there, won the Peach Bowl against Pitt, an 11-2 year for Mel Tucker. Now, that is excellent stuff. Boy, does the win total not match up to what they were able to do last year. 7.5 for Sparty. Kenneth Walker is now on the Seattle Seahawks. I think that alone there has probably a lot to do with the movement that you're seeing in terms of Michigan State projections. What do you think here about the Spartans coming into 2022?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's interesting about the Spartans here is you're right. You look at the 7.5 and say, one of those middling teams here in the Big Ten, not expected to do much, but a ranked team entering into the 2022 season, which you say, how could that be? Well, if you look at their game schedule here, Kevin, Ohio State, Wisconsin, at Michigan, and at Penn State, and you're right, you lost the heart and soul of that team in Kenneth Walker, but I think it's easier to replace, a starting running back as opposed to maybe a top wide receiver or your quarterback, which you're going to be bringing back both of those guys on a Michigan State team. Now, I did say that you usually like to have more offensive guys back from defensive guys, but Michigan State certainly in that colder Big Ten, slow it down. You got 8 returning starters on defense, 5 on offense, but the important ones, right? Give me a top wide receiver coming back. You have that. Give me a top quarterback, or excuse me, your starter from the year before coming back at that. 7.5 games doesn't seem like a lot, but as I said, that schedule is tough all the way through. If I'm going to trust Mel Tucker last year, which I didn't have a lot of expectations, and actually, Kevin, bet the under on Michigan State last year, this program has built its foundation, and if they can find a running back to tote the rock, why can't we get 8 wins here and go with an 8-4 season for Michigan State?
So I think the problem for me with this year's Michigan State's team is it very well could almost feel like ships passing in the night. The defensive side of the football should be better than they were last year, but that is because they were the worst passing defense in all of college football. Now, it did not help having to play Ohio State, Western Kentucky, and Purdue, but the schedule was what the schedule was, and they could not defend the pass at all. I think they should be a bit better, but the offense I do think is going to come back because Kenneth Walker was that important to this football team. He really was, Donnie. He really was. You cannot exaggerate it. 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns. Donnie, he was in the Heisman mix. Let's not forget. Essentially all derailed again by the nightmare performance that this group did go out there and put up against Ohio State. And you mentioned the difficult part of the schedule here. You know, you go home against Ohio State, home against Wisconsin, at Michigan, and you're going to close it out against the Penn State there. Those are the 4 games where you will, are they a dog at home against Wisconsin? Maybe not, probably not, right? But those are 4 very tricky spots on the schedule. But I think they might have they have some trickier spots than you would imagine, right? Having to, play at Washington, right? Maryland we've seen be scrappy before there. It just feels like it's 7.5 for a reason, and that Kenneth Walker absence is not going to surprise as the story of Sparty's season. I don't love the 7.5. It is a big drop-off from what they were able to do last year, but I'm not running to a window on and over. We'll talk about the Nittany Lions and close out hour number 1 next.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
People are going to the betting window and betting them now before the trade takes place.
How dare they do what's fiscally responsible? See how it plays out. Buffalo's going all in right now.
Football full circle.
All their chips in the middle of the table. It's do or die for them.
And Godwin being out, they've had a little bit of a shakeup.
In-game live all access.
You could take the points. You could take the money line. And
we had to go to San Jose, too. Maybe a small play on San Jose. I'm going to go both underdogs here. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Wow. In-game live.
Here,
Prime
minus
time.
128. You do have to lay a little bit of wood here, Donnie, but I think against Patrick Corbin.
Well, boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
I don't like this Pitt team at all. It's a 7.5 with a lot of juice right now in the FanDuel Sportsbook towards the under. Flip to the 8. Maybe they're 8.5. And let's talk a little turkey here with Pitt. With Pitt versus Miami for the Coastal, I do think Pitt found themselves the easier schedule. And perhaps the big difference is one of them goes to Clemson. The other one doesn't play him at all.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy Sports Today.
Nico Collins, who got some nice playing time toward the end of the year, but really not a lot of interest. His ADP is 217.
I think Nico Collins is sort of interesting in the same way that like Devin Funchess was interesting, right? Because he's this super athletic guy. He's huge, 6'4", 215. I mean, he got on the field as a rookie. Not that many guys who were drafted where Nico Collins was drafted.
The Sports Grid Network. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
Do you believe he has the stones to fire both of them? His dad would have.
I don't. I think Boone is safe, no matter what happens. Maybe if they don't win the East, but that's almost impossible. So I think he's safe. Cashman's contract, I believe, is up after this year. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I would think he'd be in a lot more trouble than Boone would.
The Sports Grid Network.
All right, let's close it out. We're talking Penn State here. Win total is an 8 for the Nittany Lions. Go for it, DRS. Minus 145 towards that over on the flat 8. What do you think?
Yeah, tough little schedule here. You also are going to the SEC with Auburn here early on in the season, at Michigan, Ohio State, and then also Michigan State to end the season. But you do have your quarterback back, top running back back, and also top tight end, and 3 of your 4 wide receivers. So it looks like it's a decent year set up for Penn State. But again, it takes 9 to cash this in. I'm not so sure that 9 is there for Penn State this year for me, Kevin.
Here's the thing on last year's Penn State group that is easy to forget. Opened up 5-0. Played against Iowa at Iowa in a 3-4 matchup. Up 17-3, and then Sean Clifford was injured. And the entire season fell apart. They go out there, they lose the outrageous 9 overtime game to Illinois. They played Ohio State close, though. That was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. They lose to Michigan narrowly, only by 4. At Michigan State, they lose by 3. That team was 7-5 overall in the regular season, 4-5 in conference. But they were so much better than that. And the fact that they have Sean Clifford back, and by the way, the Big Ten quarterback play, man, like some of these guys that you've seen there forever, the fact that I'm like, man, they got Sean Clifford back. But meanwhile, look, we'll get to Wisconsin in hour number 2. It's, they've got Graham Mertz back. Like, how? Yeah. Recruit a quarterback. What are you doing? Why is he back? It's a really interesting spot, but sometimes we've seen stuff like this, Donnie. When you go through that schedule, if I tell you they lose to Purdue, does that mean you like the win total under? If I tell you they beat Purdue, does that mean you like the win total over? Because if that is the case, then you're probably just going to be better off rolling with, even if it is a little more expensive, a money line bet on Penn State Purdue. Probably about minus 170 there. It's a field goal game. But again, a 1 week minus 175 or a season-long minus 145. If you like the Nittany Lions, I think you like them week 1 against the Boilermakers. We're talking NBA. You better believe it. Hour number 2 is next.